We will understand about patterns and work with patterns. In JavaScript also, we will deal with them. We just have discussed all the points about the patterns, how to write them. Now, the others we will see today how we can deal with them. And other examples, we can practice dynamically how to deal patterns while working with JavaScript, right? So we learned about how to deal with the basic input options, right? Next important here, you need to know about in the forms, while working with the forms, another frequently used option is to deal with the forms, we use a field set. Regularly, we use a field set. So we use a field set. Field set is a very simple element, actually. So the purpose of field set is nothing but, so field set is used to define a group of elements, So with caption. So it uses a legend. So legend for caption. Syntactically, so we have to just put a field set, and field set will have a legend. Legend has some text, some title, and legend close, and you can put your content, whatever you have your content, and close the field set. These field sets are very commonly used while designing the forms. So for example, how we can use the field sets. These are the common options that we use. So full stack right here. Let's keep a field set and see here. Yeah. So generally, suppose I want something like password and all these. So it is displaying in this way. And configuring. Yeah. You can see it is displaying like this. What we can do is, generally, I can keep a field set here. We can write a field set. Field set actually puts a box. You can see it puts a box frame. Inside the field set, we can keep this content. Inside the field set, we can keep the content. So that content will be inside field set. You see inside the field set. And this password I can give as legend, that password. Now you can get it. You can see it will look like this. So that is a field set with a legend. Generally, when we want to design some groups in a form, then different groups in a form are designed by using this mechanism. That is a simple option. So just a frame with a legend, so that you can design. So that is a simple, when you are trying to group the content, you can try this. So this is one important how we can use field set. Right, this is an example for that field set. Field set we usually use with the legend. So that's how we configure it. Right. So later, everywhere we can use it, not only for forms. So wherever you want to group some content and show them, you can use field set. Next, in the forms, very important, you need to know about radio buttons. Radio buttons. Actually, so what is the purpose of radio button and how do we use the radio button? Usually, uh, radio button enables user to select any option from a group of choices. Here, remember one point. Many times when we ask what is radio button purpose, immediately several people will give an answer like it is used to select one option. Actually, radio button allows to select one or multiple options. You can select one or multiple options, not only one. Radios can select one or multiple options. So, for example, actually, when you are dealing with the radios, for example, suppose I open any settings or anything like any options we are configuring. Suppose you have this here. We have some options here. Here we have all drop downs and options configured here. You see, these are radios. These are radios. No fill, solid fill, gradient. These are radios. So when you are selecting, you can see that out of 3, only one is selected. That is radio nature actually. Only one is selected. So here you can see out of these 3, one is selected. Only one is selected. This is one category. This is another category. By seeing this, generally, many people simply tell that radio is to select one option, but actually not. Radio is used for selecting multiple options also, but radios have a problem. That is the reason we don't use radios for multiple. What is problem? I will show you here. So actually, radios can select multiple also. How? I will show you. So you can input a radio button by using input type is equal to radio by using input type is equal to radio. So you can input a radio button by using input type as radio. By using the input type as radio, we can do that. So we can input radio button by using input type radio. Observe carefully. Radio buttons, I will just clean up this here. And here I am designing in the legend. I will select here, choose gender. And here I am defining input type is equal to radio. And here radio will have simply I will give radio will give a radio button. Radios beside radio we will keep a simple text as male. Another input type is equal to radio. This is female. You can observe that here. Now I will open that. You can see male, female radios are there. I can select male. I can select female. Both are working. So user, because every radio button is independent, users can select one or multiple. That is possible. But one problem is there. The problem is once you select radio, you cannot deselect it. That means one of the main problem with radio is one radio button once checked is nothing but selected, cannot be unchecked. It is not possible. You have to restart the page, reload the page. The problem with radio is, you observe carefully, I selected them, you cannot deselect them. I click on female, it is not deselecting. Male, it is not deselecting. That means once they go into process, they cannot come out. They cannot deselect. That is one problem. That is the major problem. So when you are dealing with radios, so that is the reason to avoid this situation. Generally what we do is, that is problem with radios. Hence radios are used with mutex mechanism. Mutex is nothing but mutual exclusion. Mutex means mutual exclusion. It is a multi-threading concept. Mutex means mutual exclusion. That means you can define all radios of a category. You can define all radios of a category with the common name. So that out of all only one can be selected. You can define all radios of a category with the common name. That means how you define is, so currently all are selected, you cannot deselect them. That means you have to restart the page, reset the page, then it will be okay. I selected male. I don't want to select male, deselect it. You cannot deselect it. Then what you can do is, radios can be given with a name. This is gender, same name for both radios. Then out of these two, only one will be selected. So radios must have a common name. If you want radios to select only one. If you don't give a common name, radios can select more than one also, multiple, because every radio is independent, right? So here you can see now, I given a common name for them. Then male is selected. When I selected female, male will be deselected. Again I selected male, female will be deselected. Only one will be selected. That is the reason people think that radios are used for selecting one. But radios can be used for selecting multiple also. But problem is, they cannot be deselected. If I want to deselect female, it's not working. That is the reason when to use radios. Actually, always use radios when selection of option is mandatory. selection of option is mandatory, and only one option can be selected. Always use radios when selection of option is mandatory and only one option can be selected. So that means here selection is mandatory. That is the reason you cannot deselect. But out of that, only one can be selected. That's how we have to define. And properties are very simple. So what are the properties? Here key point is all must have a common name. What are the attributes? So attributes for radio buttons. So we have ID, we have name, we have class. All these you know, and these are common. We have a important property value, and we have checked value. Also we know what value you want. So and checked means it is selected or checked will make the option selected. Others you know, ID, class and value. You observe carefully here. Suppose I keep a button, so I keep a break and a button, so and submit, a button and submit. Remember, important point is, if radio buttons so are not having a name, then what will happen? Every radio button is independent. Okay. Second, if radio buttons have a name and they don't have value, then what they will submit? So in interviews they may ask this question. Radio button will submit on as value if value is not defined. They will submit on as value if value is not defined. So radio buttons need to be defined with value. You see, currently they don't have value, and I selected male and click on submit. You see it says gender on. In the URL you can see it says gender on. So better you define a value. This is male and second value is female, and you can see that. So now I selected female and say submit. It submits that female. I selected male and submit. It submits the male. If I want one option selected by default, then I can keep that checked. Checked will keep selected. Both cannot be checked. If you give both checked in a category, only last one will be selected. So if I give male checked, then by default male is checked. That means whenever the page loads, by default it comes. You can change it, but when refresh, it will go to the male. So by default checked. So this is the purpose of radios. And few important things. What you have to know is, so some basic rules. So what are the basic rules for designing? Note is, few points to note here is, radios must have a common name. Radios in a group must have common name. Radios must have a value. Radios must have a value. Radios label is defined outside radio. So that means syntactically we write like this. Input type is equal to radio. So ID or name here first. Yeah, name is equal to gender, and value is equal to some male, And here you have to define the text as male. That means your text. So your text you have to define. Here I will say as your value. And here, so name as some name. So you can configure that. Text is outside. You have to define the text outside. If I don't give this text outside, value is not text. So you can see that value is not text. Value is male. That is not text. You can see text is not there. So you have to define text here. We have to configure the text there, and it will get the text and display. Radios must have a text beside them. You can keep text left side or right side, your wish. You can keep anywhere you want, right? Depending on the requirement. So that is the purpose of radio buttons. And whenever you need selection of one, then better you go with radios. But don't say that radios are used for selecting one option. Because radios are not just used for selecting one option, they are used for so many things. So multiple also they can work, but good to use for one option. That is important. This is example for the radios. How do we deal with that? This is an example for radio. Now, if you want multiple, this is example for radio. If you want multiple, then you can go with another option, that is checkbox. Actually, so checkbox is similar to radio, but allows to check and uncheck the option. So that means it doesn't require mutex. It can uncheck and check the option, right? So it is used for selecting. It is used for selecting one or multiple options. Selecting one or multiple options. Not only multiple, one option also we use it. One or multiple options. Checkboxes are used for selecting one or multiple options also. Even for one option also we use checkbox, because advantage is it can be checked and unchecked. So, but only one option out of all, it cannot work. So individual option it can work. I will show you. Suppose, and it is designed by using, so the checkbox is defined by using input type is equal to checkbox. We have to define by using input type is equal to checkbox. So this is just type attribute configured as checkbox. That's how we define. And properties attributes are similar to what we have radios. So the attributes are similar to radio button. So what are the attributes? Attributes are similar to radio. We have ID, so we have class, we have name, we have value, we have checked. These are the common options. You can see now. So here I want to give checkbox. It is used for both one or multiple options. Suppose I'm giving here a field set, okay, and legend. Say your hobbies. And here I am using input type is equal to checkbox. And here we have, so the value for this is music, like this. And here we have music. Now another option, input type is equal to checkbox. This is value. So value is movies. And remember, so this is movies. So this is the value. Checkboxes also can have a common name. So we can give a name called hobbies. We give a common name hobbies. But important is why we give common name, because so that all can be collected by that one reference name. But remember, several times it will submit the values. Several times it will submit the values. So the point is why we have an habit
Nah,
of giving common name is
nah.
so all can be accessed with that name. Can be accessed with that name. Otherwise, several different references will be created. So now you can access all with one name, right? You can give a different one also.
କଣ
So, but you
ଛତୁ
see now it
କହୁଥିଲା
is going to give
ଛତୁ
checkbox.
କହୁଥିଲା ନବା ପାଇଁ
User can select one or multiple.
ପଚାରିନି
And when I submit them,
ପଚାରି
it will
ନାହିଁ
submit hobbies music, hobbies movies.
ପଳେଇଲାଣି ସେ
So I selected only movies. It says hobbies movies. User can select one or multiple. You can use for selecting one option regularly. You will see websites. Suppose I designed another field set and legend. I said terms of service. And below this, so here we have some div. Inside the div, some terms and conditions. So we define like this. Under the div, we keep another div. So we keep a checkbox. Input type is equal to checkbox, and we give I accept. That is the term. So this is general. You can see it is used for displaying one. So of course, the height width of this div, I will give style. Some height is equal to 100 pixel. So and some border is equal to some 1 pixel or 2 pixel solid. And we can put some background color. Background color is equal to some gray like this. And it will keep some content like this, terms and conditions. So I defined like light gray options. I defined as light gray, and we are configuring that. And it is going to display those options there. That is generally happens, right? So yeah, sure, you can. Right. So that is the general option. That is how it can manage the options. So here we have the conditions and all. We have just one option, accept. So you can use for one, you can use for multiple depending on the situation, right? So you can use for both. But advantage is once you checked, you can uncheck it. So which is not possible for radios. You have to restart or you have to choose another one. So that is the option how we can manage this. Later, we will keep in various examples, but first we need to understand the purpose of them. How do we design them? How do we work with them? We need to understand about that. So generally, this is the process, how to configure and define the options, right? This is one important. So how you deal with that, right? How we can deal with that. So let's see. Example, that is, there are some more questions here. I will tell you, because many times in interviews they ask that. So here, syntactically, input type is equal to checkbox, and you have some name and you have some value. value configured into it. So type checkbox and name and value, some options and some text, whatever text you want, you can configure here. So example, this is one basic example for that. But what is regularly asked question is, this is in two situations we use. One is we use it for single option, we use it for multiple options. In many interviews, they ask this question. So how to design checkbox list. This is a very frequent question and frequent requirement also. Checkbox list, actually officially you should know that there is no checkbox list in HTML. So you have to design with the CSS. So there is no checkbox list in HTML. We have to, checkbox list means it is a list of checkboxes. I will show you. Suppose here, how to design the checkbox list. See, I will clean this up here, define it. Okay, and here we are adding. Suppose I am giving some options like C. We have a checkbox list how to design. So legend, and I said select courses. Here we will keep a div. Inside this, we will keep an ordered list or unordered list. We have list item. And you can keep the list items. So checkboxes, input type is equal to checkbox. Input type is equal to checkbox. This is like some Java. Okay. And another checkbox, 3-4 checkboxes, 5 checkboxes I given like. So like .NET, so like Oracle, so UI. So here say some stack, full stack, like this. Some options are defined. So some options are configured here. Now observe carefully here. It will give a list like this. Now, generally in styles, what we do is in the style, wherever unordered list is present, UL, we put list style as none. That means there will be no list style. That means bullet symbols will not come. Then what we do is the height here for unordered list, height, we defined as suppose 100 pixel, and border as 2 pixel solid. You can see there is a border and 100. So here we are defining width as suppose 200 pixel. So width is adjusted here 200 pixel. So width is some 100 pixel. So width is adjusted here. Now height I defined as suppose 50 pixel. Then height is adjusted like this. And see here, the list items are outside it. They moved outside it. Then what we do is generally means they are overflowing. Then we will write overflow as scroll. Or better you can give overflow select option from the list. So this is a checkbox list. You can select like this. You can scroll and you can select like this. So actually, so we usually have the list items. That means unordered list. In that unordered list item, we have margin. So margin left. we keep some minus 20 pixel. So that means they are used to adjust towards the left side. So minus 40 pixel, they can go left side. You can see this is the list box. This is a checked list box. This is a checked list box. Officially, we don't have a checked list box, but we can design. So this is a very regular requirement. This is a regular requirement. We can design it. Usually we can design by using, we can design it by using this CSS. We have to create a list with overflow options, then we can configure it. So this is a checked list box. So there is no ready-made checked list box. We have to create by our own. And this is the example for that. How to create a checked list box. How do we design checked list box? It's a very regular requirement actually. So how to manipulate them, that you have to learn in JavaScript. How to manipulate them, we need to deal in JavaScript and work with the JavaScript, right? So you cannot do that, right? You cannot do in a drop down. So what you can do, that you will learn, right? You cannot do that. So you can create only like this, nothing else you can do. Understood? Yeah. Now you don't have any ready-made controls for that. You have to do this. Now anything you have to do, you have to do it by using CSS. You can create a drop down with checkboxes, or you can create a list of checkboxes. Anything you can do with CSS. In HTML, you cannot do. Understood? Right? You cannot do it HTML. Right? We don't have anything else. See, with CSS, whatever you want, you can do. Right? In how many ways you want to display, you can display. Right? But HTML has limited options. So the purpose of radio set checkboxes are this, how we can use radio and checkbox. Now, generally, when options are many, then giving radios and checkboxes, list boxes. So this is how we design actually. So we can use, there are so many options. Then instead of giving a radio buttons and all, you can use a drop-down list. You can design a drop-down list. Drop-down list. Or generally we call as combo box also. Combo box. Drop-down list or combo box. Right. Actually, in web technologies, it is good to say as drop-down list. In Windows applications, we call as a combo box actually. What is drop-down list? So what is problem in radio button is, suppose 30 options are there. Suppose cities, 30 cities are there. Out of 30 cities, user should select one. And to display 30 cities, so 30 radio buttons will occupy more space on screen. Even you arrange one below another or side by side, it's very risky. That is the reason better to go with the drop down. Drop down allows the user. So actually, drop down allows the user to select any one option from a group of choices. That is one important. Actually, to design drop down list, we need following elements. What are the elements we need to design drop down list? So a drop down list. So we need the following options. So what are the options we need? Elements. We need a select element. We need an OPT group element. And we need an option element. These are the elements required for designing a drop-down list. So we need drop-down list. So with select, OPT group, and option. We need all these three things. Now, what are these? How we can design? So drop down is a collection of options actually, how we can design. Usually, what is select? Actually, select is a container. Select is a container for set of options, set of, you can say, items, set of items in list, and opt group actually is used to group a set of items into one category, that is opt group. And option, so this option is used to define individual, it is used to define individual item. So every item is designed in this way. That means syntactically, how we create actually is we put a select, and here we have an opt group, and in this opt group usually will have a label. Opt group will have a label. There we define category name, and in that opt group category name we define option, and in the option we say, so here, so some item one, and close the option, and we close the option group. In this you can have several items option, so item 2, and close the option, and close the select, These are the options how you configure. So we will see that what is that option group. Option groups are not required every time. We can directly write options. Option groups are not required every time. Only when you want category wise, you can use option group. So see here, suppose how do we design the options here. Let's create a simple example here, field set. Okay. Now we have simple field set and legend, and I say select city. Okay. Or say select product. And here I am creating a drop down, select. You can see that select will put an empty drop down. You see there is an empty drop down. Now select will have an opt group, option group. In that we will put a label. So it will have a label. Label is equal to, I said, some electronics. In that we have option. So that is, suppose, some Samsung TV. And we have another option like some JBL speaker. Okay, we have some options, some MI mobile, something like this. And here we have another option group, opt group. This option group is having label. So label is equal to footwear. And in that we are defining an option. So some Nike casuals like this. And we have an option like some Lee Cooper boot like this. And you can see that now in the design, it is going to get that. And observe carefully, option group electronics footwear, and I click this drop down, it will get that and display. That means you see electronics is a group. Generally what we do is, as a first option about the option group, as a first option, we say select a category. So then it will get select a category. And I can click here and I can choose one. Select a product. Suppose I said select a product, or you say select your product. Okay, and this is the first option, and you can click and you can select. Width, height for drop down, your wish. You can adjust it by using styles. Width, how much you want. You can adjust that. By default, width will adjust according to the longest content inside it. You can change the width. We can configure the width. So this is the basic. This is the basic how. You cannot select these electronics category labels. Only you can select the items. You can select the items. So that is the basic. So this is how generally we design. Now in this, some more important things are there. This is an example how we design a list. Here some more important options are there. Actually, every option in a drop down list comprises of following attributes. Every option in drop down comprises of some attributes. What are the attributes for drop down? This is very important, remember. So one attribute so we have is selected. Selected is a Boolean one. Selected. So that means it makes the option. Selected by default. It makes the option selected by default. So that is selected. We have disabled. So disabled is another option. So it will not allow to select option. Sometimes for particular cities, we don't want one product to be selected. We can disable it. Every option will have selected. Every option will have disabled. Every option will have a value. That means it specifies the value to submit. And the text will be there. So text, it defines the text to display. Now remember here. So here we are giving the option a button. We will give a button. That means just beside that we will keep a button. Say submit. And this select is having a name as product. And you can see that. Now what happens is when I select here, when I select speaker and I click submit, it will submit that speaker. So it is able to submit that value. Now generally what we have to do is, so we can submit a different value. Generally in real world what happens is, suppose they ask you to select a city, but in the background, so they will actually use the pin code of city. That means suppose here Samsung TV. So here value can be different. They can submit same or they can submit different like, so they have a code for this. Value code is suppose TV. So some 2010, that is the code for that value. That is the code for the TV. Then you can see what happens now. When I select Samsung TV and submit, its value will be submitted. But other products, their name text is submitted. That is your wish. You can submit the same or you can submit different. By default, it will submit the text, but we can submit its value. This is recommended. Always you can give value same. That means you can give value as speaker, but it is showing as JBL speaker. But when I select it and submit, it submits speaker. What you see is user friendly, but what you submit is so developer friendly. Why? Because developer needs a reference name, through that he can access, he can search, we can display. That is the reason value can be same or value can be different. We can define a value. For the elements, we need to configure the value. Generally, that is how the values are specified, values are configured and defined. That is one basic approach. So, and what is selected? Suppose I want some option to be selected automatically. Whenever page opens, I want this Nike casual selected. Then I can just put selected. There can be only one selected. So, and you can see Nike casuals is selected by default. By default, it is selected. If you give multiple, only one will be selected. The last one will be selected. So selected. And if I don't want MI mobile to be selected, then I can keep disabled. If I keep disabled, then you can see MI mobile, I cannot select it. I can select only these two. I cannot select the third one. I can select the others. I cannot choose that one. Later, we can enable, disable with JavaScript. That is what we will do according to the situation and the state. It can handle that. So, but we have three important values to configure. So one is basically selected, disabled value. Text is nothing but what text you want to display. The text is already in between. The text we have to define here. So what is the text to display? We have to configure. So whenever you are dealing with the radios, drop down. So drop down have several important options. So drop down can be designed with these options. Only one change. So here, if you want to convert into list box, so we have a list box also, list box. Only one change, everything is similar. Actually, list box. So list box is designed with the same drop-down options. So only it comprises of attributes. Only it comprises of attributes. Only it comprises of attributes. Two important attributes. Only it comprises of attributes. One is multiple and another one is size. So multiple, what it will do is allows to select more than one. And the size, so sets height for list box. So list box, that is only the option. That means if you give multiple, so multiple and size, it comprises of additional attributes. That makes a list box. So that means just what you have to do is, if you want a list box, everything same. Just we have a select, we put size is equal to 2. Then it is converted into list box. If you want to select more than one, you can put multiple also. That's it. Other options are same. Generally, we don't use option groups usually when you are using this. So we don't have a first option. We don't have option groups. So we don't keep option groups. Option groups are good for drop down. So not for list box, we don't use any option. Only options are there. Generally, see what happens now. So only options means it will display like this. Now what I can do is simply I can give a size attribute to 3. Then you can see that it is converted into a list box now. You see it is a list box. User can scroll up and down and user can select he wants. But user cannot select more than one. To select more than one, you have to give multiple, which already I told you in input element. Multiple, then user can select more than one. User can select. You can use control key to select random. You can use shift key to select a sequence. So here you can select, or you can click and drag. You can select those options. But the mobile is not selectable because we disabled it. All, and I click on submit. You can see all are submitted. All values are submitted. Whatever you selected, those are submitted. Not all values are submitted. Only selected values are submitted. It will submit only the selected value. If multiple selected, it can submit all the multiple values also. So that is generally how you can define the selected, how you can configure the selected. That means just only drop down converted into a list box. So this is an example for drop down into list box. Drop down into list box. So we have radios, we have check boxes, we have drop downs, and we have list box. Whatever we are discussing, these are limits of HTML. Whatever you want extra, that is through CSS only you have to achieve. Many times this question asked, like, in a drop down, can I put a symbol or icon for, because you see, suppose I have speaker icon should come, electronics icon should come. You can't do that. For that, you need to design CSS drop downs. So you cannot put symbols or anything else here. Suppose we have font awesome, right? We have font awesome. So we have a link relation is equal to style sheet, and href is equal to, so from fonts, so we have CSS all.css. And here, if it is not defined with size, then obviously it is not defined with size, it is a drop down. And for TV, here in the option, you can see this is the option. In the option, I kept a span and class as FA and FA TV. That is the symbol for TV. And you can see here in the list, you can see here, there is no symbol. It will not. We cannot. For that, we have to design CSS. So actually, so if I put here span and the class FA and I defined as FA TV, you can see TV symbol is working, but you cannot keep this inside. That's not possible. So that is not possible. So you cannot keep that. But that is regularly asked. That is all done by using Bootstrap CSS. We can design that and we can configure that. So this is one important option for drop downs and list boxes. Now we have another important is while working with the form elements, one more basic important element is text area. Actually, text area is very simple. So text area is nothing but it is used for multi-line text box. It is used to display multi-line text box. Multi-line text box. So that means text is displayed. Text is displayed in more than one line. So on line. So it allows to view input and edit the values. So that is multi-line. Suppose you want like some multi-line, like here you can see I will keep here legend is your comments, and here I will keep a text area. So text area, so we'll keep multi-line text box. You can see multi-line text box will come. And button I will keep in a next line. You can see multi-line text box will come. User can type more than one. And here you can put the attributes. Multi-line text box, it can have attributes. Two important attributes. Rows means how many rows you want, calls, how many columns you want. And you can also keep read only, disabled, and we have name, we have ID, we have class, all these you can define. Rows are nothing but, see, I say rows is equal to 5. And you can see height is adjusted for that. And I say calls is equal to 20, some 40. Then you can see width is adjusted. You can add that. And important here is you can keep some text also. So that means some text. By default, you can keep some text there. If you want, you can modify. If you don't want to modify, you can keep it as read only. Then you know that you cannot modify the text, just like license terms and conditions and all. But usually we allow to input the text inside it, and we can display the text. So that means it will automatically span the text into multiple lines. So more than one line, it will get that information and display. That is text box. Colors, effects, everything you can give. Multi-line. But very important point is actually text area is RC data element. That means it will not allow any another element within the context. It will not allow any another element within the context. That is very important. That means if I say here B and hello, you can see that it will not convert into bold. It will just display the text. It is only for plain text. We cannot use any another element inside it. That is why it is called RC data element. And this is very common, how to deal with the text area. So this is a simple example how we can design the text areas and configure them. For multi-line text boxes, we can use text area. Now we have some advanced important options, like in the forms we have like meter, like progress, meter and progress like contents. That we'll see in our next session how to deal with them. So tomorrow we will finish forms and we will go into multimedia, means audio, video, animations, how they are kept inside website, how we design them, right? Tomorrow we'll continue with this. Yes, Nikhil. Any doubt?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I am sharing my screen.
What is your doubt?
सर ये फॉर्म्स का जो कोडिंग्स आपने कल दिया था वर्क करने के लिए, ईमेल और पासवर्ड का, वो मैंने यहाँ किया, वो सारा किया, बट सर जब इसको ऑन ओपन करते हैं ना तो टेक्स्ट एडिट ही नहीं होता उसमें.
एडिट मतलब आपका पैटर्न रॉन्ग है. अंडरस्टूड? हाँ, पैटर्न को एक बार चेक करो. ओके
ओके,
समझ में आया?
यस सर आया.
हाँ, पैटर्न रॉन्ग है. शेयर करो एक बार स्क्रीन.
एक मिनट सर, मैंने स्क्रीन शेयर हुआ सर?
हाँ, शेयर नहीं हुआ. एक बार पैटर्न को चेक करो फिर, राइट?
वही कर रहा हूँ सर, नेट स्लो है जिसकी वजह से शेयरिंग नहीं हो रहा है.
तो अभी टेस्ट मत करो. ओके
ओके.
हाँ. यस भाग्यश्री, व्हाट इज योर डाउट?
सर मैंने जब वो फॉन्ट असम का किया तो वहाँ पे वो सिंबल डिस्प्ले नहीं हो रहे मेरे टीवी और टी शर्ट.
एक बार शेयर करो देखेंगे.
एक मिनट करती हूँ शेयर. हुई सर स्क्रीन शेयर?
हाँ. कहाँ है आपका फॉन्ट्स? कहाँ है फॉन्ट्स फोल्डर? कहाँ है?
यहाँ पे.
हाँ, वो आउटसाइड है ना.
हाँ
देन आपको
आउटसाइड।
डॉट डॉट लिखना पड़ेगा ना पाथ के लिए।
ओके
वहाँ
हाँ
स्टाइल
EHREF
शीट।
में। हाँ
हाँ
EHREF में।
हाँ।
ठीक है, उसकी वजह से वो नहीं हो रहा है शायद।
और जब दूसरा फोल्डर में है ना, उससे बाहर
हाँ
आके डॉट डॉट स्लैश लिखना पड़ेगा ना,
यस राइट।
डॉट डॉट स्लैश,
ठाकुर
राइट।
घरे तथा अन्यान्य सब घरे शांतनु केमती
हाँ
मारे
Yeah,
तो
yes,
कौन
yes.
मारी
फ्रंट साइड।
किरण
ओके
मारी काट बांधु हैला बायो बांधी तो उणे
काम
आइए
देखना।
आउट किरण सफा
हाँ
हो
सर
की
चेकआउट करती हूँ मैं।
एबे खेले हो तो देखी कहू कर सेटा गोटे किणी आनले हबो से जो किणी आइबो का करबो भलो